Hi everyone, I'm Erickson Steele. Welcome to History for Couch Potatoes, history that won't make you drowsy. I stepped away for a bit, thinking that I would start a Sims 4 channel. I've always been a fan of the franchise, but history is my passion and has always held my heart, so I'm back where I belong and more excited than ever to share it with you. When we think of workhouses, it conjures up images of deplorable conditions run by those who had little respect for the poor souls they were tasked to help. In England, state-funded assistance for the downtrodden began with the Poor Relief Act of 1601. It gave a legal high five to the church, allowing Christians to collect funds from those who were stronger financially and donate the money to the aging, the ill, the handicapped, in hopes of improving their quality of life. Generally, the assistance came in the form of food, clothing, spare coins, and in some cases, even lodging. As decades passed, handouts were given in exchange for manual labor from the men and household duties for the women. By 1620, the phrase workhouse became the popular term for facilities which offered those comforts. Folks who had donated funds were promised that their money wouldn't be wasted. Soon, like the taxpayers of today, they demanded proof. Able-bodied men and women collecting assistance was quickly becoming a common fear among average people, and especially the wealthy. By the close of the 17th century, providing social assistance and teaching marketable skills in a single dwelling was considered the best way of reaching those who were in need of it. Britain had so much faith in that concept that by the early 1700s, workhouses sprang up in every neighborhood like a popular burger joint. However, workhouses didn't officially become a part of Britain's social consciousness until 1723, when Sir Edward Knatchbull authorized the Workhouse Act, and Parliament was quick to jump on board as long as they could add a line or two. The finished document explained that such institutions should operate as a last resort for the people, and that there'd be a certain stigma put in place, designed as a deterrent to slow registration and embarrass those who had no choice but to accept the assistance. Due to injured servicemen returning home, or the hardship of losing them felt by their families, poverty increased during the Napoleonic Wars, and the government was forced to rethink its opinion of the poor. The budget, which Parliament had allocated for the Workhouse Act, rose from £2 million to £8 million between 1795 and 1815. Their response was to reconstruct the relief package into the Poor Law Amendment of 1834. Still funded by the taxpayers, this new idea was to have everything distributed by labor unions and groups of parishes. Each union or church lightened the burden of taxpayers by taking charge of the workhouses in their communities. For the poor, moving into a workhouse wasn't easy. First, they would have to meet with a relief coordinator who had access to labor unions and churches. If all was well, the person or family would be given admission. Fearing the spread of disease, upon arriving, their clothes would be set ablaze or quickly moved into storage. Clean uniforms were issued. The new residents were bathed and subject to medical examination. Elderly female prisoners on loan from the local jails usually assisted the medical staff, although most of the inmates were illiterate, hearing or vision impaired, or drunkards. This made mistakes in the examinations kind of common. Medical wards were filled beyond capacity, and there weren't a lot of windows to deliver fresh air. In the 1860s, medical professionals forced the government to pass the Metropolitan Poor Act, which made London's workhouses run separate infirmaries. You see, the battle of the sexes had begun. Occupants were segregated by gender. Men and boys on one floor, women and little girls on the other, regardless of if they were a family unit, a married couple, or in a loving courtship, having had carnal knowledge of one another. As usual for the time, females handled the sewing, the cooking, or the laundry. Males were assigned to more manual labor such as stone breaking or bone crushing. On a daily basis, families could gather briefly to share their stories or wait until Sundays for dinner in the dining room. Every encounter was strictly supervised. The Metropolitan Act hadn't made any allowances for drifters or the homeless. Workhouses were meant for folks who had a former residence in the neighborhood. Vagrants could stay for one night per month. In the 1880s, all that changed. They could stay for 2 nights, earn wages of a day's work, and be ushered out the front door the following morning, without so much as a handshake or hearty farewell. Having no address labeled you as subhuman in the eyes of the union or the parishes, whether they want to admit it or not. They saw you as being not worthy of the respect given to workhouse residents who had lived in the area. Word spread of the harsh treatment that vagrants were receiving, and in the mid-19th century, small handfuls of journalists donned disguises and posed as vagrants in order to investigate those claims. No one really knows when the workhouse system came to an abrupt end. Some say it was the 1930s when public assistance organizations were introduced. Others think it was 1948 when the National Health Service redesigned many workhouses into hospitals, many of which are still in service today. For history that won't make you drowsy, I'm Erickson Steele, and this has been History for Couch Potatoes. Until next time, I'll leave you with one final thought. Oxtail pizza. Why would nature do such a thing? See ya.